George Bates, pilot of Lydd steam tug, told the Cumberland Evening News on the 25th of February, 1928, quote, "We first heard the news of the collision about 8:40 p.m., the message stating that a Russian barque was in distress. I got my motorboat ready, and preparations were made to launch the Dungeness lifeboat, but another message came through, which led everybody to believe that no assistance was required. It stated that the S.O.S. was all clear. Naturally, the lifeboat was not launched, and I did not go out."
Hello, and welcome to the Shipwreck Archive.
Thank you. Would you happen to have the story? The confusion of the Alcantara.
Here we are. Enjoy!
The two vessels in question could not have been more different. The Alcantara of Catania was an Italian single-screw steamship of 1,682 tons. She had a crew of 23 men under the command of Captain Coote. For their final voyage, the Alcantara was carrying mineral ore from Carloforte to Calais. The other ship in question was the Soviet four-masted sailing barque, the Tovarisch. The Tovarisch was a 2,472-ton vessel heading from Holtenau to Buenos Aires. As she was a training vessel, she had on board 95 men in total on board, 60 of whom were cadets of the Russian mercantile marine under the command of Captain Freimann. There would later be some slight discrepancy about the weather. In the court documents, the night of the 24th of February, 1928, was described as being hazy, but Giovanni Pavon, an engineer from the Alcantara, would say that there was no fog, but that it had been very dark, and there was only a quarter moon up above. There was a strong breeze, but no rain or snow that would prevent ships from seeing one another. It should be noted, however, that Pavon had been on deck 20 minutes before the two ships met, and there was a record at the Dungeness lighthouse, the lighthouse closest to the incident, that they had been sounding their foghorns that night. Captain Coote of the Alcantara ordered his ship to slow down at about 6 in the evening, bringing her speed down to 7.5 knots, but it was not due to weather conditions, but instead because he wanted to arrive at the dock in Calais on Saturday morning, and not before. The Tovarisch, traveling in the opposite direction, was traveling at approximately the same speed as the Alcantara. The crew of the Tovarisch saw the Alcantara when the two ships were about 3/4 of a mile apart. No one would ever know when it was that the crew of the Alcantara would see the Tovarisch. The Alcantara had electric lights, and it was believed that her electric lights had burned brighter and were more visible than the oil lights on the Tovarisch. It was later determined that had the two ships stayed on the course they were on initially, they would have passed close to one another, but there would have been no collision. The crew of the Tovarisch was alarmed by the course that the Alcantara was on, however, including the third officer, who was on the deck as the two ships approached. In his pocket, he had some red and green flares. Wanting to warn off the Alcantara, the third officer went to the starboard side of his vessel's bridge and lit one of the green flares. At the same time, the order for hard or starboard was given. What seems to have caused some confusion and panic on board the Alcantara. The Alcantara let out a short blast of her whistle, and then ported her helm. It seemed to those on the Tovarisch that the Alcantara was planning on passing under her bow, but it also seemed to them that to succeed in such a maneuver was completely impossible, and the two ships were going to strike. Though the wheel of the Tovarisch had already been turned 2.5 turns to starboard, the order was now given to go hard a port, with the hope of avoiding the Alcantara. On board the Alcantara, Pavon was in the engine room oiling engine parts when a signal came down the telegraph. Captain Coote had sent down the order to stop the engines. Pavon had no idea what was happening on the deck, but the chief engineer came rushing down, his face pale. He told Pavon that he had come down to await the orders of Captain Coote, and they were in terrible danger. Pavon looked at the clock. It was 7:52. Before Pavon could even reply to the chief engineer, the crash came, causing the whole ship to shake. There were screams and shouts. The chief engineer, aware of the situation and what had occurred, shouted to the men in the engine room to quickly get to the deck to preserve their lives. Pavon reacted quickly and ran up the companionway. Once on deck, he could feel the Alcantara pitching beneath his feet. Looking around for what had happened, he found the bow of the Tovarisch wedged in the starboard quarter of the Alcantara, with their bowsprit stretched across their deck. He ran to the engine room stairs and called for his friend, the engineer's apprentice. Pavon was struck in the shoulder by a piece of metal, but he admitted that he was too frantic to even notice. The Alcantara was sinking beneath his feet. There were 2 explosions that rocked the ship around the time that the water reached his neck. He believed that it was the sound of the boilers exploding. With no sign of his friend and no time to waste, Pavon grabbed hold of a broken chain that was hanging from the bowsprit of the Tovarisch. He could feel the decks of the Alcantara slipping from beneath his feet. From the collision to the ship being gone, Pavon estimated it had only taken 3 minutes. He was soon looking down into a whirlpool and churning waters where the Alcantara had just been. Pavon did not stop calling out for his friend, and after about 10 minutes a member of the crew of the Tovarisch climbed onto the bowsprit and saw where Pavon was hanging. He returned with a lifebuoy on a rope and lowered it to Pavon. Pavon was now feeling the injury to his shoulder which he had ignored before, and he struggled to put the belt on, but he managed it. He was then hauled on deck. He asked the crew immediately what had happened to his friends, only to be told that he was the only one who had been saved. He would later claim he had been told that the Tovarisch had been going 10 knots, too fast to slow down and look for survivors. But that does not seem likely since the Tovarisch was going significantly slower than that, and the collision would have slowed her even further. On finding Pavon hanging from their ship, the Tovarisch began to light up the water around their ship and lowered the ship's boats, looking for more survivors. Pavon, meanwhile, was given a meal of sardines and chocolate, given new clothes, and put to bed by the ship's doctor, who spoke a little Italian, but was not able to tell him anything further about the fate of his shipmates. Captain Freiman and the 3rd officer would later say that they had not known that the Alcantara had sunk. The cadet who had been on lookout said that he had witnessed the Alcantara sink. Captain Freiman would say that he had been too busy worrying about his own vessel to worry about the other ship. He was responsible for over 90 lives, and the Tovarisch was also damaged. Though Pavon would see the Tovarisch lowering her boats, they would never be sent out. An S.O.S. was sent out, something that the Alcantara had never had a chance to do, even though they had wireless. But the S.O.S. was for the Tovarisch, not for the Alcantara. The Baron Douglas and the Horden responded to the S.O.S., and they were told to stand by just in case. The Coast Guard readied their boats at the S.O.S., as did a couple of other boats along the shore, but the message came that the Tovarisch was holed but not in danger of sinking, and there were ships standing by, so there was no need for the Coast Guard boats to go out. It was not until the Moldavia sent a wireless message that the Coast Guard was mobilized again. The Moldavia had found some wreckage and had lowered a boat, which had found a man in a lifebuoy labeled the Alcantara of Catania. He had not regained consciousness to tell them what had occurred, and passed away almost as soon as they pulled him aboard the Moldavia. Based on the wreckage, they guessed that the Alcantara had gone down, and they sent word to the Coast Guard, who sent out boats. They were able to find a large amount of wreckage when they arrived at the location, but they did not find any more people. The next day, the search continued in earnest, with fishing vessels and airplanes dispatched to hunt for any survivors. A door labeled First Engineer washed ashore at Dungeness and was picked up by a fisherman who said that, based on the condition of the brass, he did not think it had been in the water for long, and was most likely from the Alcantara. The remains of a sailor in a lifeboat were picked up 4 miles west of Dungeness that afternoon. 2 lifeboats, davits still attached, still containing their oars and lifebelts, washed ashore in the same area. It was becoming more and more clear to everyone that Pavon was the only survivor of the tragedy. The Tovarisch arrived off the Nab of Southampton at 2 in the afternoon, but had to wait for the tide. It was therefore at 8 in the evening that 2 tugs brought her in. Word had spread about what had occurred, and people were waiting at the dock to get a look at her and her crew. She had a 15-foot gash in her stem. A smashed navigational lamp from the Alcantara still hung, swinging in the chains of her bowsprit. A captain of one of the tugs who had brought her in told the newspapers that the bow of the Tovarisch was full of water, but that the bulkheads had done their work. Still, the people on the dock described the crew of the Tovarisch as clearly being under the effects of stress. Captain Freiman remained on the bridge until the ship was firmly moored, a position he had remained at since the collision had occurred. He then had a meal and, pleading too much exhaustion to speak to the press, he went to his cabin and fell asleep. The crew of the Tovarisch was kept on board the ship, despite the authorities giving them permission to land at Southampton. Captain Freiman also gave a series of excuses for why he was not yet ready to speak with the press about what had occurred. Pavon, meanwhile, told his complete story to the newspapers, ending with the fact that he had lost everything: his friends, his job, all his belongings, and 2 months of pay, all in the space of a few moments. The first that anyone would hear from the Russian crew was on that Tuesday, when an inquest was held over the remains of the 2 sailors who had been found. Captain Freiman was required to attend, but he kept his statement short. He had not seen the Alcantara go down. The other ship had passed in front of them, and the hard port shouted by the 3rd officer as well as the lit flare had been intended to avoid the other ship. He had been too preoccupied with seeing his ship safely into port to think much about the fate of the other vessel. The coroner was harsh in his summation, saying that the Italian crew had drowned under their very noses, and that they should have thought a little more of the others and less of themselves. With that, the inquest was closed, and the legal battle began. The case between the Tovarisch and the owners of the Alcantara over who was responsible for the collision was initially heard on early July 1928. It was decided in favor of the Alcantara, with the judge ruling that the green flare burned as a warning had been against the codes and had only led to confusion, that the 3rd officer of the Tovarisch should have burned a clear flare instead of a green one, if they had wanted to warn off the other ship. The confusion over exactly what had occurred, the lack of information about what happened on the Alcantara, and the difficulties of everyone needing a translator to testify were all acknowledged by the judge, but he decided to focus on that single light as the source of the problem. He felt that it had caused Captain Coote to feel as though he had to do something, and it had led to a rushed and unnecessary change in course, which had ended in tragedy. This decision was appealed the next year, and the Court of Appeals heard the case in late November 1930. They put far less weight on the color of the light. The regulations did not say that the flare could not be colored, and the showing of a flare did not justify the Alcantara breaking the regulations and passing the bows of an approaching sailing vessel. They did not speak about the moral right or wrong of the Tovarisch failing to stop and look for survivors. That was not before them. They simply ruled that the Tovarisch was not responsible for the sinking of the Alcantara, no matter the feelings of the public on the matter. For more information, please see the Bristol Western Daily Press from February 29th, 1928, or see our other sources in the description below. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for visiting the Shipwreck Archives. See you soon.